Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So today we'll discuss about hierarchies. So hierarchies is nothing but like maintaining of organization, like structural data. So it has some structure. Uh, for an example, if we discuss any organization, so CEO is the top in the top of the pyramid, right? So next, vice president, and then directors, senior managers, managers, leads, and the entry level engineers. Like that, like we maintain some structure in the data, okay, to maintain the pyramid. So to define those relationships, we go for hierarchies. Okay. Already we have defined relationships between tables, right? Here, what we define is we define relationship within the data. There is a difference. Table level relationship and record level difference relationships. Okay. So here we define relationships in such a way that like how that record is nothing but a customer is related within the organization. Okay.
Okay.
So if you consider any one customer, okay, so he holds some of the products like if a savings account and differently how he is related to that organization. Okay. Whether what's here like whether he has any relationship manager, or it could be like some point of contact, like every account, like there should be some relationship manager or some point of contact or point of contact of a branch. So those things like how that customer is related, we define those things. Okay. So here in the hierarchy section we define those relationships. Okay. So if we do from the scratch, okay, when we click on hierarchies, okay, when we click on these hierarchies, we get one pop-up window. Uh, Default icons are not found often. Acquire log. Okay. Packages are need on relationship based object tables for this version of hierarchy. Would you like to create them? Yes. So if we do hierarchies from the scratch, so a pop-up window will be displayed like this. At the back end, it creates some tables, repository based object table to support the hierarchies. Okay, let's see. Rep, we'll see the tables. Tiger. So there are some tables are there. When we click on that hierarchy section, suppose like if we are doing this from the scratch, if already the hierarchy section has been set up, then the tables will not create again. Okay. So that is one time creation. So even we don't have the like permissions to drop those tables. Let's see like what are those tables. Select star from C underscore RBO underscore BO class. This is one table. Okay. Let's see whether we have these tables or not. Okay. This table is there. All right. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Mahesh? Yeah. Mahesh. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I had network outage.
Okay. So there are some repository base object tables which we'll create at the backend whenever we click this. Okay.
Okay.
So we have clicked this. So some of the tables have been created at the backend. Let's see. So this is one table, RBO BO class, and we have two more tables. So let's start from C underscore RBO is nothing but repository base objects. Okay. And one more table is there. These are the three tables. Okay. So what are these three tables is? So as I said, right, that record level relationship will be like configured at the hierarchy section. Okay. If you consider, if you consider like employee relationships, okay. So for an organization, everyone like whoever works for that organization is an employee, right? So each employee has some designation. Okay. So for you in your organization, there might be some senior developer or lead. There might be some designation like that. Every organization has some designations. If you consider an IT industry, we have software engineer, senior software engineer, lead, manager, senior manager, then president, and then director, like that, right? So here in the BO class code, we maintain the entity types. Okay. So whether a record is a manager or a software engineer or a senior software engineer or a lead, those type of relationship we maintain, not relationships, the types, entity types. We call this that as a entity types. Okay. That information will be stored in BO class table, and we have rel type. Okay. We have manager information, senior manager information, software engineer information, lead information, like lead types. So how those are related? We have to. we have to define some relationship, right? So those data will be stored over here. Here, like suppose is manager, is lead of, is senior manager of, is director of, is CEO of, those relationships. So if you consider Mahesh is manager of Rohit, so there is a relationship is there, right?
Mhm.
Record level relationship. Mahesh is related with Rohit. How? Like Mahesh is manager of Rohit. So that relationship information will be stored over here. Okay? And this is an hierarchy. So hierarchy is nothing but grouping of entity types and relationships. So we can create one name. Suppose like here we are discussing about employee, right? So we'll create employee hierarchy. So under that group, under that umbrella, employee hierarchy umbrella, whatever the entity types and relationship types we have defined, those will be come under that umbrella. Okay? So in an organization, we have different types of hierarchies are there. If you consider employees, employees hierarchies will be there. Okay, and if you consider any healthcare industry, it will be like is doctor of, is patient of, is senior HOD of, is dean of. So that those type of relationships can be defined. There could be like depends upon the industry. There could be different relationship. If you come to the manufacturing or retail domain, like so, if you consider the retail domain, how how the accounts are related. Suppose if we have some customers, organizations, and individual persons. So organization is also a customer. Individual is also a customer. Okay, that how an individual is related to the organization. Suppose if we have Mahesh, some party name is there. Mahesh is account of some organization. Okay, Mahesh is account of something like that. Some organization is parent of some other subsidiary organization like that. Or else like if you consider the shipping address and billing address, like those things. Yeah, and if you consider the invoice, so and so account is so and so order is shipped to this location. How that relationship, like that order is shipped to that particular location. Those type of relationship. And some other relationships like it could be like the addresses. We have customer information and customer address, like how that address is related to the customer. Suppose a customer is there, address is there, address some address, like how that address is related. Address A is home address of customer. Address B is work address of customer. Address C is permanent address of a customer. Those type of relationships we define. Means here we are purely relating the records within the organization, how those records are related. So why we go for this hierarchies is like to draw the complete 360-degree view of a customer. If you select a customer, how that customer is related within the organization to the address or to a product or to a service. Okay, all those things, like how he is related. If a customer has some family members, so how whether the customer is in a household account or else like any individual account, or else it's like a family group account, or those things. Different types of information depends upon the business that an organization do. Okay, this type of hierarchies we define. Hierarchical relationships, exactly, you can say hierarchical relationship. Hierarchies are nothing but a structure of is like a structure, organizational structure. Okay. Did you get my point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So these are the tables. These tables acts as a lookup to the base object tables. Okay, so here we like in our previous classes, I have mentioned only the base objects are of two types. One is normal base object, another is lookup base object, right? Here we have two more types of base objects are there. If we define entity types like a manager or senior manager, like those entity types to a base object, we call that base object as a entity base object. Okay. If we define relationships within the base object, then we call it as a relationship base object. Okay. These are the two base objects we have. Apart from that, lookup base objects and normal base objects. Okay.
Okay.
So let's see how can we define the base objects and those things. Where the packages will get created at the backend. Okay. So if we do from the scratch, okay, we have these things. We'll get these things. Okay. First time you are configuring, that's why it asks one pop-up window to create packages on repository base objects. Okay, their packages are not available, so it has created some packages for these three tables. Okay. So now what we have to do, we have to define entity objects and relationship based objects and then hierarchies. So, so we can convert like we can use existing base object as a entity base object, or we can create new base object. If you right click, create a new entity or relationship base object, convert a BO entity or relationship base object. Okay. So we can use anything we want. So what I will do, like I'll create new entity base object. Okay, new entity base object and new relationship type base object. Yeah, we can convert the existing one also, but the data should not be there. The data should not be present in that base object table. I think let's see, see, like let's check that. So convert BO to entity relationship address 80 our party M. Please enable state management on base object 40M. Okay. State management should be enabled because these are the entity base objects, right? So for entity base objects, sometimes the relationship may be exist or some if an customer exists from the organization, we'll remove those relationships, right? So soft delete those relationships. So we have to enable the state management. Enable state management. Okay. We have saved that. Right click, convert the water. I'll select our party M. So cannot convert base object partition, not nullable columns can only be added if the party table is empty. Okay. So we can convert existing base object, but the data should not be present in that, because so we are creating some columns in the base object that should not be nullable. So if already data exists, if you add an extra column for the existing data, that column contains the null values, right? It's general behavior, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it will not allow. Okay. So what we have to do for our hierarchies definition, like to define the hierarchies, definitely we should have empty table. That's why whenever we want to implement an MDM project, what we do, we'll do in a step by step process. Okay. First, we have to gather the info required details. How we are getting the data, what type of relationship exists within the data, and what type of hierarchical structure we need for our business requirement. So we have to draw some conclusions for those one, and then we have to identify the base objects. Once we create those entity base objects, in future we can add extra entities or we can remove the entities, right? That's not an issue. But if we have already the data is there, how can we add convert that existing base object? So suppose we have moved to the production base object. So in the production, data has been loaded and we were consuming that. So now some business requirement came to add hierarchies to entities, entity types to that base object. We cannot add that. It will not allow MDM because those are nullable, right? So that's why whenever we configure, like we have to gather all the requirements. This happened in my project. Okay. They asked to convert existing base object, to add the entity types in an existing base object. So we got this error. We contacted, we raised Informatica support ticket. They said that the base object should be empty. So, but already there is a data in enough data in production is there. So we'll simply left like that, and we have created new base object for that purpose. It's like an unnecessary redundant data we have to maintain.
All right.
Okay. So that's why, like, whenever we define anything, like we have to consider the future requirements also. Click OK. So we'll create one entity base object. So what would be the display name? Anything like base object. Entity Vivo party M. I'll keep okay. Entity Vivo party M. Okay. Description. Okay. Foreign key column here. Like so here, if you consider here, it is making an relationship with the repository base object table, this one, or Vivo class. Okay. This stores the, if you click, there is no data here. It stores the entity type information like manager or senior manager. So here we can use Vivo class code of, so here Vivo class code, here we have extract, right. Here the Vivo class code is there. Sorry, this is the Vivo class code. Okay. So will this one acts as a parent column, and the column which we define in our table, that acts as a child one. Okay. So here what I am doing, like I'm using Vivo class code and display name. Okay. Display name here, physical name, right? at this base object table, this column will be going to create. So it's our wish. We can create anything like entity. I make it as an entity type. So if you go to in real time, whether we have party type or entity type, and entity underscore type. Okay. So one column entity tab type column will be created in this table. Okay, by default. So we are providing details, right? So this column will be in relationship with this column. This column belongs to which table? This table,
Class.
RBO BO class table. Then so let's create this. Click OK. It creates one entity base object. Okay, one entity base object has been created. Entity BO.pm. Okay. If you see at the schema section, you will find that entity, okay, base object, entity base object. And if you see by default, enable state management has been
Check.
checked. Okay. Uh, um, if you see the columns, this entity type which we have defined that has been created of varchar to 55 length,
Okay.
and it is not nullable column. Okay.
Okay.
If you see the relationships, there is a relationship is there. Okay, you got the point, right?
Yeah, yeah. It is for entity class.
Yes. So now what we have to do, we have to define the relationship base object. So under here, we can define the relationship base object. Create new relationship base object. Click OK. So here, which relationship base object I need to create? So I have to select that. The relationship base object like entity rel 40 m. Okay. So CBO rel 40 m. Okay.
Yeah.
And here, so it by default it has selected entity base object. So we have only one entity base object. That's why by default we got this. If you have three or four entity base objects, we can select as per our requirement. Okay. And here there are some columns are there which it it it, it will create at this base object. So there are two columns are there. Okay. The two columns will get created automatically in the relationship table. So entity base object one, entity base object two. Right now we are like we have only one base object is available. That's why we are defining like we are making relationship within with only one entity base object. So if you have two or more entity base object, we can select like here entity base object, right? So second one we can select. Okay. So we have selected the entity base object, and I said right two columns will get created at the relationship type base object. So here what like columns I need to create. So uh, Here in the entity base object, we have row ID objects and the entity informations. Like suppose Mahesh record is there for that entity type as this Vivo class code. Like here, entity type C. Like let me run that. Okay. Select start from C underscore Vivo underscore party underscore E underscore M. Okay. This is the base object, entity base object, which we have created. Here we have row ID objects, and here we have entity types are there. So Mahesh is manager, right? So for this entity, what would be the child record? Even the child record also will be exist over here only. Mahesh and Rohit. Entity row for Rohit, it's an like senior software engineer. Okay. So in order to relate to these two records, what we have to define? One is the parent record, one is the child record. What would be the foreign key columns here? Row ID object only, right?
Raw idea. Yeah.
Okay, row ID object of the two records. So here, for one column, I'll say parent fk. Okay, for one column, I'll say parent fk, and for another column, for child one, I'll mention as child fk. Child underscore fk. So now we have provided two columns. So it, and at the relationship base object table level, it stores the information of entity base objects, like what is the parent ID and what is the child ID. Okay, it stores those two information, and at the same time it has to store the relationship information also. So between these two IDs, what is the relationship, right? We need that relationship type column, right? So we'll select the rel type code, and here this rel type code is always make lookup with this table. Okay, here we have rel type code is there. Where is that? Yeah, rel type code here. Okay, so that relationship base object always makes lookup with this table for this rel type code. So that's why here we have one rel type code is there, and this column will get created. Okay, we'll mention rel type. Okay, so at the relationship base object, it creates this column. Okay, and so we have one more column is the hierarchy FK column. Okay, here hierarchy code. I said right. Um, hierarchy code is nothing but an umbrella where all the relationship will be defined. Okay, so here in this section, what we store is like, if you are storing employee hierarchy, then we'll simply store mention the name as EMP hierarchy as the hierarchy code. So this employee relationship base object table will make always an relationship with this hierarchy table. Here we have hierarchy code is there. Okay. It makes always look up with this code. If there is an entry in this table, then only the records will be inserted into this rel type table. Okay. Relationship base object table. If record does not exist, the records will be rejected, and it throws an error information that lookup invalid lookup type. Okay. So here in these three tables, here Beaver class code, under Beaver class code, there should be some value. Under rel type code, there should be some value. And under hierarchy code, there should be some value. Then only it accepts the data. Otherwise, it will not accept the data. You got my point, right?
Yes.
So now we are ready. Just if you click OK, the base object will get created. Click OK. Okay, base object has been created. So the relationships or configured, right? So let me show. Let us look in schema section. Okay, one more base object has been created automatically. See here, enable state management we got. Okay, all these things we got, and even enable history by default we get. Okay, and timeline functionality has been enabled. Here we are defining the relationship types, right? I told you, right? This will be based upon the business requirement we'll mention. So relationship type at particular period, what is the relationship? Whether that relationship type is active or not. So those things will be automatically populated when once we make an entry to that relationship. Suppose Mahesh is manager of Rohit. So Mahesh will be manager to Rohit for particular duration only, right? Continuously for lifelong, he will not be a manager, right? He will get promotions so that his designation will get changed. Even Rohit designation will get changed, right? So only particular timeline only that relationship will be active. When the relationship gets changed, that will be automatically soft deleted, and new record will get assigned, and new timeline duration also will be there. So we can, by looking at the start date and end date, we can say that that record is in active state or inactive state. Okay. Um, and then one more step we have to do is we have defined. Now we have created the entity base objects and entity relationship types. Now what we have to define? Entity types we have to define. Okay, entity types and relationship types we have to define. So what type of entities flows into this MDM application? What type of relationship type information will flows into the MDM application? We have to define, right? Then only if we insert the data into this base objects, it will accept. If there are no entities defined, none of the records will get loaded.
Right.
Yeah. So let's go here. So you get like, right. How can we insert the data here in these three tables? Right now there are these are empty tables. How can we insert the data? Manually we should not. Okay. And we won't create landing staging tables for this one. These are system maintained tables. So how can
Right.
we get the data? So we get the data when we define entity types under here. So here right click, add entity type. Okay. Click this one. So entity type. Now what I will define as manager, lead, software engineer. Okay. Those three things only I'll define. Okay. Three or Superman lead, like two software engineers. Okay, that would be suffice, I think. Okay, so I am defining manager. Manager. This is the code name. So we can define MZ001, and we can define manager like this. This is the description. No, sorry, manager. This is the description. The display name, and here if we add in the description, so this is entity type, BO class code and BO class description. Okay, if we provide the value over here, for our easy convenience, we can provide directly here the manager also. Nothing will happen. Okay, so the code and description both will be the same, and we have provided the entity type. So it was some color coding. Why means like we see these relationship, right? 360-degree view relationships. So how, where can we see? In under hierarchy and manager section, we can see those relations. So for to differentiate those relationships and account types, so we use some color coding. So for manager, I'm using red. So he's the top, right? And icon for manager also, we have to use some icons. Okay, it's a pictorial representation. So there are some Hierarchy manager, doctor, address, hierarchy man, financial address. No. Okay. I'll use hierarchy manager, doctor, address. Okay. I'll use any one of these things. Okay. Click OK. And a large icon. Click save. Okay. One record you will observe, like you will find that record. You will observe this under this section. Okay. One record has been entered into the Bevo class code. Right. Manager, display name manager, Bevo class code manager. Whatever the values I have provided over there, those values got reflected. Okay. You got the point, right?
Yeah.
And we'll define few more entities. Okay. uh, Add entity type manager, then lead, lead and lead. Okay. So we'll color, so is next top right. I'll use, okay, I'll use this one, this color and the icon. Okay. Now one more record will be entered into the Beaver under the Beaver class code section. Okay. If you observe here, one more and record will get entered. Lead. And one more type I will add. So here, what I will add a software engineer. Okay. And the color, I'll add some green color. Small icon, I can say is a junior one. Well, that's why I'll use this. Okay, click save. Now we have added the entity types. Okay. So before going to create the relationship types, we have to define the hierarchy. Which hierarchies we are doing. Like right click, add hierarchy. So the hierarchy name, I'm using corporate hierarchy as a name. Corporate employee hierarchy. Okay. I can simply say like uh, corp EMP. Okay. The meaningful name we have corporate hierarchy. Or else we can say like simply employee hierarchy. Okay. For the, Click save. One entry will observe under here. Okay. M hierarchy. Relationship row ID table not used. We have not used. Okay. So now we will define the relationships. Okay. Add relationship type. So what the relationships we have to define is manage. Okay. Is manager. Okay. Same thing. Will use this, this, and color. So manager, right? I'll use red color. And entity type one. So how this is related? Okay, manager is related. Manager is manager of fleet, right? So that's why one is highest one, and second is the lowest one. Okay, and the direction is entity one to, like, from manager to lead, like here, right? We can read like this. Mahesh is manager of Rohit, like that. Okay, and select the hierarchy. Only one hierarchy is available. That's why we are selecting this way. Okay, and direction here, multiple directions are there. We can use any one of direction. Okay, if we don't
Okay.
know the direction, then we know the right how the records are related. So that's why we are using entity one to entity two. We can use bidirectional also. It's our wish. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, Click save. Then you will see one entry under rel type table. So before going to see, let's see is there any difference observed in this hierarchy table. Rel row ID table is used on. Yeah. So rel type will run this. You will observe one entry. Okay.
Okay.
Direction also it mentioned. Everything it has mentioned. What is the color settings? Sorry. Okay. The colors and which like how this is related. Those things. Yeah. And now we'll define the is lead of also one more entity type or relationship type. Select this one. And is lead of. So now we have defined the relationships and those things. Okay. And if you see here under hierarchy section, what are all we have grouped, those things will be displayed over here. Okay. And we have to define one profile. So we have to define one profile, like by default here, default profile is available. We can use this to view the hierarchy records. Okay. So when we run the hierarchy manager, it displays the which profile you have to select. If I select these two and save it, under the entity objects, you can see this. Okay. So for this profile, these are configured. Okay, we'll see these things also. Okay, we'll look at these things also. And now what we have to do, just we'll quickly create, okay, one landing table, one stage table for each object, for this one and for this one. Go to the schema. So under this entity based object, I'll create one stage table. One stage table would be fine. Okay. So we'll follow only one stage table to display our hierarchies. So before going to this, like we have to create some columns under the entity based objects. Right now we have only one column entity type. So I need like I'll create a name column. Okay, name, and I'll create similar contact, email ID. Okay, email ID, name, contact, email ID, and name, contact, email ID. I think these are suffice. This would be fine. I'll create one stage table for this one. I'll use SFTC.
Oh, don't we need designation?
Sorry,
Don't we need designation for that base object as
that's
well?
what that is the entity type.
Okay.
Okay, we have defined as entity type. We can mention like designation also.
No, I think it's more apt.
Okay, uh, stays SFDC. What is this? Entity people, entity party, entity party. Yeah. So in interviews, okay, people ask, do you have like do you know hierarchies? We'll say yes, but I haven't configured from the scratch, but we have hierarchies in our project, and you have to say that. Okay, like, don't say this employee hierarchy relationship. So while explaining to them in generic way, we can say these things, but in our project we have like relationship type codes like is household, okay, or residential, those things for address relationships. And for customer relationships, we have like we can say that uh, each shipped to, billed to. So we can say like if we mention about the retail project, like okay, shipped to, billed to, and those relationship we can mention. And if we go to the finance domain, like okay, is agreement of, okay, and um, we can say is agreement of, is household account of, is like org account of, those type of relationships we define. And if we go to the healthcare domain, we'll select is patient of, is doctor of. Okay? If you like how much comfortable you feel, what type of relationship types you are comfortable you feel, and mainly that which type of project you are handling. Like in previous, like you might have handled some specific domain of the project, right? In ETL, you can take that project, simply remove that ETL process and put your MDM application and explain to them what you have learned in our this in these sessions, okay, and what you have practiced and what you have gained knowledge. That would be suffice
Okay.
uh, for explanation purpose. And once our project data flow and everything gets complete, okay, people may shoot the technical questions. At that time they ask hierarchies and those things. So at that time you have to say that I haven't defined any hierarchies, but we have hierarchy section and these type of relationships are there, and those things. Okay, I'll show like there lot more is there. Yeah, under hierarchy section we have to create packages and everything.
Okay.
For today, simply we'll create the um, mappings and those things. Tomorrow we'll insert the data and we have to create some packages and those things are there. I am not sure. Like I think it will take one more like 1.5 hours more. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So we have created one stage table, and even for rel type also I'll create one stage table. So rel type columns are sufficient. These would be sufficient. Okay. We are defining rel type code, parent key, foreign key, and hierarchy. These are like if you go if you even in the real time projects also, if you go and look at the relationship type base object table, you will find mostly these columns only. Very rare cases you will find other column. I mean different. Okay, these are
Okay.
sufficient for us. I'll define one stage table. SFDC stage SFDC rel or T. Yeah. So we have to call the columns. We have created the staging tables. Now we'll create the landing tables also. Quickly we'll create the landing tables. So landing entity 40 m. I'll remove this and keep underscore e underscore m. One landing table and also columns we'll take from the landing 40 entity. Where is this entity? Okay. Columns from schema itself. I'll do like instead of creating manually, I'll use this first div. But in real time, people don't use this schema section. Okay, very rare.
You mean
Just
import schema or the
yes,
actual
yes, yes.
config?
While importing the config, we create manually only.
Okay.
Why means like they have like people have habituated like that because when we create any tables like at the time you won't find anything at the base object table level. That is the reason.
Okay.
These are the columns which we required, and we required few more columns. One is okay, source key and the source system. Yeah, we have configured only one source system, right? That's why no need of creating this column, but just as part of best practice, I'll create.
Okay.
And this should be source key always should be 255. Data type length should also get matched. Okay, this is the parent one. That's why we are not creating the foreign key columns. S- Let's create one more landing table. Landing entity well part. Yeah, we'll import the columns. We need these things only. So hierarchy real type will parent fk party fk should be also varchar 255, because here we'll provide the source key values. Okay, and we need one more key, that is source key. 255 and one source system. Let's save it and we'll define the relationships over here base object. So we have to define the relationships lookups. For hierarchy, we have to define the this CBO hierarchy code. And for rel type, we'll define the rel type code. And for parent FK, we have to define okay, the source system and click OK. And child also same table. Now we have defined, save it. Same thing for parent also we have to do. Only for this column we'll do. Your class code. Okay. So we'll create two mappings. Tomorrow we'll load the data and a lot of things are there. Yeah. Mapping section. Map SFTC entity party. Yeah. Okay. And we'll auto populate source key to source key and source system. Nothing we don't. Entity type to entity type. Enables. This would not required even though if we don't mention it will populate because we are providing only the single source system data, right? This rel party. Yeah. Auto map. Yeah, will auto get auto mapped source key to source key and source system to nothing. Sorry, source system nothing. Right? SRC underscore system equal to SFTC. SFTC. Let's save it. Okay. Tomorrow we'll see the data loading part. Like there are a lot out there. We have to define the. We have to create packages also. Okay. Tomorrow we'll see
Okay.
the data loading part and packages. If we have time, then we see the uh, hierarchy manager section also.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you, Mesh.
Thank you. Bye.